After I got clean, my family said I was more interesting on drugs and refused to let me stay, mocking my recovery online while I slept in a shelter, until I was invited to speak at an event where they sat in the front row, and I told the whole truth. I spotted them the second I stepped onto the stage. The three people I never thought I'd see again, sitting in the front row like they owned the place. My mom, my older brother Kyle, and my aunt Denise, all dressed up, all smiling like proud family members supporting someone they believed in. I almost froze. Because these were the same people who told me, straight to my face, that I was more interesting on drugs. The same people who mocked my recovery online. The same people who kicked me out the week I hit 6 months clean, leaving me to sleep at the women's shelter on 4th Street in Sacramento. And now, they were sitting front row at a recovery awareness event where I had been invited to speak. As I walked toward the microphone, the lights hit my eyes and blurred everything around me. I could hear my heartbeat in my teeth. My palms were slick. I felt that old panic, that old humiliation, rising in my chest like it wanted to choke me. They didn't know I'd noticed them. They were too busy waving at someone behind me, trying to act like they belonged here, trying to make sure everyone saw them. I could see it already. Photos for Facebook, captions about supporting their girl, hashtags like recovery journey even though they hadn't supported a damn thing. They thought today was about them somehow. They thought I was still scared of them. I gripped the podium so hard my hand cramped. I hadn't planned on saying anything personal. I was supposed to talk about early sobriety, relapse prevention, all the usual stuff. But looking at them, my own family, the ones who had shoved me out when I was finally trying to get better, I felt something shift in me. A cold, steady resolve. I wasn't going to lie for them, not this time. I opened my mouth to speak, but right then, before I could get a single word out, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I shouldn't have checked it on stage, but something told me to. It was a notification from a burner account that had been harassing me for weeks. Comments like, "You're fake sober. You'll relapse by Christmas. No one wants you unless you're messed up." And this new message, sent literally 3 minutes earlier, right when I walked onto the stage, made my stomach drop. It said, "She's gonna embarrass herself again. Watch." Attached was a photo of me taken from the back as I walked onto the stage. Someone here, someone in the audience, someone in the front section. My eyes snapped back up, straight to my family. Kyle was smirking at his phone. Mom was looking over his shoulder. My aunt was covering her mouth like she was trying not to laugh. They had sent it. I knew it in my bones. That was the moment I stopped caring about consequences. Stopped caring about keeping the peace. Stopped caring about pretending that my family was anything but a group of people who only liked me broken. I slid my phone back into my pocket, looked right at them, and took a deep breath. And instead of starting my speech, I started my story. "Before I say anything about recovery," I said, my voice shaking but loud enough to echo off the walls, "I want to tell the truth about what actually happened to me, and about who put me in the shelter in the first place." Their heads shot up at the same time. Good. I wasn't even close to finished. I didn't start using because I was wild or rebellious or trying to be cool, no matter what my family liked to tell people. I started because I was lonely in a house full of people who only paid attention when they wanted something from me. We grew up in a small 2-bedroom duplex off Marconi Avenue in Sacramento. My mom worked nights at a convenience store, and my brother Kyle basically raised himself, which is code for he did whatever the hell he wanted. By the time I was 14, he was already sneaking out, drinking, and bringing home girls who barely looked older than me. If I tried to tell Mom what he was doing, she'd say I was jealous. If I said he scared me sometimes, she'd say I was sensitive. If I cried, she'd roll her eyes and say, "No wonder people treat you the way they do." So I learned to keep everything inside. When I was 16, a friend at school gave me my first pill. She said it would help me feel normal. And she was right, for a couple hours anyway. For the first time in my life, everything went quiet. My brain stopped beating me up. My chest didn't feel like it was collapsing. I wasn't scared of my own reflection. I didn't feel good. I just felt nothing. And to someone like me, nothing felt like relief. I hid it well at first. I still got decent grades. I worked weekends at a gelato shop downtown. But the moment I walked in the door at home, whatever peace I'd managed to build that day would evaporate. Mom would be yelling about bills. Kyle would be laughing with his friends about something nasty. My Aunt Denise, who'd moved in temporarily after a breakup, would be commenting on my weight or my clothes or why I didn't have a boyfriend yet. And somehow, in all of that, I was still the problem. By 19, things had escalated. Pills turned into whatever I could get my hands on. Not enough to land me in the hospital, but enough to numb the constant shame I woke up with every morning. And the weirdest part, my family acted closer to me when I was at my worst. Mom would bring me takeout and sit next to me like she cared. Kyle would make jokes about how chill I was now. Aunt Denise would tell people I was creative when I was high, like it made me artistic or something. They treated it like it was a personality trait, something fun and quirky to gossip about. But the second I tried to stop, the second I said, "I need help," everything flipped. When I got clean for the first time, I expected things to get better. Instead, they got so much worse. My family didn't like the version of me that had boundaries. They didn't like the version of me that got quiet instead of laughing at their mean jokes. They didn't like the version of me that said, "That hurt my feelings." They started saying I was boring, difficult, annoying, preachy, judgmental. Mom once said, "I miss the fun you used to laugh more." I told her I only laughed because I was high, and she shrugged like she already knew. By the time I reached 6 months clean, they were openly making comments at dinner like, "She's no fun sober," and "You were more interesting when you had stories." But the real breaking point, the thing that finally pushed everything over the edge, happened 1 week before I hit that 6-month milestone. And it proved, without a single doubt, that they didn't want me healed. They wanted me dependent, predictable, quiet. That was the week everything fell apart. The week everything fell apart started on a Tuesday morning, the kind where Sacramento heat sticks to your skin before you're even out of bed. I had just come home from a recovery meeting, sweaty and exhausted but proud of myself for actually speaking up for once. When I walked into the house, all three of them were sitting at the kitchen table, Mom, Kyle, and Aunt Denise, like they were waiting on me. Nobody talked at first, they just stared. Finally, Mom said, "We need to have a real conversation about your attitude." I thought maybe they were upset because I'd stopped doing their dishes or driving Kyle around. But no, it was worse. "You're walking around here like you're better than everyone," she said. "You act brand new," Denise added, sipping her iced coffee like she was in some TV show. Kyle leaned back and smirked. "You're just boring now." I felt my face go hot. "I'm just trying to stay clean," I said. "That's it," Kyle snorted. "Yeah, and you're miserable. Remember when you used to be fun. At least you had stories." Mom tapped her nails on the table. "You don't smile anymore. All you do is talk about recovery stuff. It brings down the energy in the house." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I thought getting clean would make them proud. Instead, it made me a disappointment. I told them I was doing my best. I told them recovery was hard and that I needed support. But that word, support, must have flipped some switch in their heads because Kyle burst out laughing. "You want us to babysit you," he said. "Like, what do you expect, a trophy for not popping pills?" "Don't talk to her like that," I snapped. And that's when everything exploded. Kyle stood up so fast his chair slammed against the wall. "Then leave," he said. "If you're gonna be like this, just go." I looked at Mom, hoping she'd stop him. She didn't. She just shrugged. "Maybe some space would help you figure out who you want to be." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. It never came. They told me I had 2 hours to pack. They told me they were tired of walking on eggshells. They told me they missed the old me, the one who was too wasted to notice how cruel they were. And when I didn't move right away, Mom said it. "You were more interesting on drugs." Those words hit me so hard I felt something collapse inside my chest. But I packed. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even slam a door. I left with a backpack and a suitcase and checked into the women's shelter on 4th Street. It smelled like bleach and old mattresses, but for the first time in years, I felt safe. I felt alone, yes, devastated, but safe. And that should have been the end of it. But when you have a family like mine, the cruelty doesn't stop just because you move out. About a week later, one of the women at the shelter showed me a TikTok video my aunt had posted. It was some stupid lip-sync trend, and she captioned it, "When she says she's clean but still toxic." 2 days after that, Kyle posted a selfie with the caption, "Peace in the house again," face with tears of joy. Mom wasn't posting memes or pictures, but she was in the comments section cheering them on. And then the burner account started. Low blows, insults, predictions of relapse, I knew it was them. I just couldn't prove it. Not yet. Because 2 days before the event, 2 days before I saw them sitting smug in the front row, something happened that finally gave me the proof I needed. Something small, stupid, and almost accidental. But it cracked everything open. A message I wasn't supposed to see, a slip-up, a mistake that exposed everything. They didn't just mock me, they planned it, they coordinated it. And they weren't done. The proof showed up on a Thursday night, 2 days before the event, when I was sitting on my cot at the shelter scrolling through job listings. I was exhausted. I'd had meetings all week. I was trying to save every dollar from my part-time cashier job, and I'd just gotten off a call with my sponsor. I only checked my notifications because the screen kept lighting up. The burner account, again. More comments. More crap. I ignored most of it out of habit. I didn't have the emotional energy to fight back. But then I saw the username mentioned me in a comment thread under a video about addiction recovery. I clicked it only because there were like 30 replies, and that usually meant drama. The comment said, "Trust me, she's not clean. Some people just love attention." Same tone as always, same weird obsession with my sobriety. Nothing new, but what was new was the reply right under it. A reply from a public account I recognized instantly. Aunt Denise. Not just her real name, her actual profile photo. Her real profile, she replied with. Face skull you're terrible, the laughing skull emoji. Her signature. Something she always used, like punctuation. My stomach dropped. She meant to send that reply from the burner account. She clicked the wrong profile. I didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. Then I clicked the burner account's profile. I started scrolling through the comments it had left in the past month. And suddenly, I saw the pattern, the references, the inside jokes my family always made behind my back. It was all there, hiding in plain sight. My blood went cold. I wrote down the username on a sticky note. I screenshotted everything, her slip-up, every comment, every message. And then, just as I was putting my phone down, something else popped up. Something I had never seen before. A message request, from the burner account. It said, "You think getting clean makes you better than your family? It doesn't. They're doing fine without you." They, not we, not I, they. But then another message came immediately after. Oops, didn't mean that. Like they realized mid-sentence that they'd said the quiet part too loud. That was the moment everything clicked together so sharply it made my chest hurt. It wasn't just Denise behind the account. It wasn't just Kyle. It wasn't just Mom. It was all three of them, a shared account, a group project. They took turns harassing me, mocking my sobriety, sending me pictures of my own back as I walked onto stage, taunting me about relapsing, my own family, working as a team. And then, because the universe loves timing, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't the burner account. It was an email. The event organizer for the recovery project had sent me the final attendance list for speakers' families. I scrolled through the document and felt my hands go ice cold. Next to my name, under family seats reserved, 3 seats confirmed. The names listed, Linda mom, Kyle brother, Denise aunt. They didn't just show up. They planned to, they wanted to be seen supporting me. They wanted the attention, the photos, the praise for standing by me. Meanwhile, I had been sleeping on a bunk bed, listening to women cry themselves to sleep. The betrayal was so sharp it stole my breath. But it also gave me something I hadn't had for months, resolve. They thought they knew me. They thought I was still the girl who would shrink to keep them comfortable. They were about to learn otherwise. Part of me wanted to storm into their house that night and scream. But a bigger part of me, that new, terrifyingly steady part that sobriety had built brick by brick, decided to wait. I'd see them at the event. They'd sit in the front row. And I'd tell the truth, all of it. The night before the event, I barely slept. Not because I was nervous about speaking in front of a crowd. I'd done that before in meetings, but because my mind wouldn't stop replaying everything I'd found. Every screenshot, every message, every cruel comment they'd written while I was trying to rebuild a life from scratch. I lay awake on my cot while the shelter hummed quietly around me. A woman 2 beds down was snoring softly. Someone in the hallway coughed. A volunteer was mopping floors. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. It was honest. More honest than anything I'd ever gotten from the people who claimed to love me. By 2 a.m., the plan hit me, not in a sudden lightning bolt way, but slowly, like a tide rising until you realize you're underwater. If they wanted an audience so badly, if they wanted everyone to see what good, supportive, family members they were, then fine. I'd give them an audience, but I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to accuse. I wasn't going to cuss them out or have a meltdown. That's what they expected. That's the version of me they counted on, the unstable girl, the messy girl, the one they could point to later and say, see. This is why we kicked her out. No, I was going to be calm, methodical, clear, and worst of all for them, honest. Truth is a weapon when you deliver it steady and clean. Around 3 a.m., I sat up, grabbed my notebook, and started writing. Not a speech, just facts. Simple, straightforward facts, dates, screenshots, things they'd said, things they'd done, the night they kicked me out. The way they mocked me online, the burner account, all of it, not embellished, not twisted, not emotional, just the truth they'd been hiding behind my addiction for years. The more I wrote, the lighter I felt. Like each line was pulling a hook out of my skin. At one point, I paused and wondered if maybe I was going too far. Maybe telling the truth in front of a room full of strangers would look petty or vindictive. Maybe it wasn't appropriate. But then I remembered Mom's voice saying I was more interesting on drugs. I remembered Kyle posting that selfie about peace in the house again. I remembered Aunt Denise laughing at comments about my sobriety like it was entertainment. And I remembered sleeping in that shelter for 6 months while they played supportive family online. No, there was no too far. By sunrise, I had something that wasn't exactly a script, but more like a backbone, a map. A North Star to keep me steady when my voice wanted to break. As the other women woke up, I folded the notebook closed and got dressed. Simple black pants, clean shirt, hair pulled back, nothing fancy. I didn't want to look fragile or flashy. I wanted to look like myself, clear-eyed, level, steady. At 10 a.m., I took the bus to the community center where the event would be held. The air smelled like hot asphalt and dust. Sacramento in early fall. My stomach twisted the whole ride, not in the I'm scared way, but in the I am about to change everything way. When I got inside, the event organizer waved at me and handed me a name badge. Your family already arrived, she said, cheerful and clueless. Of course they had. I walked into the auditorium and saw them instantly, front row, center, smiling like they could already hear the applause. But something else caught my eye. A man sitting 2 seats away from them, someone I hadn't seen in years. Someone who used to know me better than anyone. Someone who absolutely, definitely should not have been there. My breath caught in my throat, because this wasn't just my family's betrayal. This was bigger, much bigger. And seeing him there changed everything I thought I knew. I froze when I saw him. Seat 1A, aisle side, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees like he was actually invested in whatever was happening on stage. Nathan, my ex. The one person I truly believed I'd cut out of my life for good. The one person I should have never trusted in the first place. We dated for almost 2 years, back when my addiction was at its worst. He wasn't the reason I used, but he was absolutely the reason I kept spiraling. He never pressured me, he didn't have to. He liked me pliable, quiet, easy to manage. He liked the version of me who couldn't argue, couldn't question him, couldn't see how bored he was with my entire existence. When I finally left him, I was at rock bottom. It was the first boundary I had set in years, and he didn't fight it. He didn't chase. He just shrugged, said, "Do what you want," and walked away. Fine, good, done. So why the hell was he here? I stepped back behind the side curtain before he could see me. My pulse pounded so hard I felt it in my ears. My hands went cold, my throat tight. Seeing my family was one thing. Seeing Nathan, that was a whole different kind of darkness. I took a breath, slow and deep, the way my sponsor taught me. Focus. Stay in your lane, you don't owe him anything. But then I looked again, just enough to be sure, and I realized something that made my stomach twist into a painful knot. He wasn't here alone. He was sitting with them, with my family. Comfortably, like he belonged there. Mom was talking to him with that fake sweet smile she used on people she wanted to impress. Kyle and Nathan were laughing about something, heads close together. Even Aunt Denise was leaning in like she'd been waiting to see him again. I stepped back so fast I hit the wall behind me. They invited him. They brought him. They knew exactly what they were doing. All this time, while I blamed myself for being too paranoid, too sensitive, too dramatic, they had kept in touch with him. They had conversations about me with him. They made plans with him. They talked to him about my recovery. And now he was here, front row, ready to watch me crack open my soul on stage. They didn't want to support me. They wanted a show, and he was part of it. My heart hammered harder the longer I watched them. Every memory of him came rushing back, him rolling his eyes when I cried, him calling me too much, him ignoring me for hours because he didn't feel like dealing with me. The way he'd smirk when I apologized for things that weren't my fault. The way he once told me, during an argument, that I was only lovable when I was numb. And now, he was sitting with my family like he'd earned the right to witness my healing. Like he was a concerned figure in my journey. Like I owed him some kind of redemption arc. I backed farther behind the curtain, gripping the edge of a metal folding chair to stop my hands from shaking. This wasn't just a supportive family photo op anymore. This wasn't just about pretending they cared. This was coordinated, calculated, cruel, because if my story went well, if people applauded, my family wanted to bask in it. They wanted to be the heroes who never gave up on me. But if my voice cracked, if I fumbled, if I panicked seeing Nathan, well, that would make an even better story for them later. More ammunition, more gossip, more memes. They had set a trap, a psychological one, and they expected me to walk right into it. But they didn't know something important, something I hadn't told a soul. I hadn't come to this event alone either. And the person who came with me was about to change everything. The person I brought with me wasn't sitting in the crowd. She wasn't waving from the front row. She wasn't here for applause or sympathy or family theatrics. She was backstage, leaning against a stack of folded risers, sipping weak coffee from a styrofoam cup, watching me with that steady, unblinking calm that only people who have survived real darkness ever have. Her name was Marisol, one of the counselors from the shelter, but she was more than that. She was the first person who looked at me like I wasn't a burden or a project or an embarrassment. She talked to me like I had value even when I had nothing but 2 outfits and a frayed backpack to my name. And she knew everything. Every detail I'd been too ashamed to say out loud. Every bruise on my heart I'd hidden since I was a teenager. Every sick twist my family had put in my head. I told her about Nathan 2 months ago. Not his name. But what he did to me. How he chipped away at me until I didn't know where I ended and his voice began. She didn't gasp. She didn't pity me. She didn't coddle me. She just said, "People like that don't want you alive unless they can control the narrative." That sentence had stayed with me like a bruise that wouldn't fade. Now, as I stood backstage staring at the man I used to love sitting beside the people who'd thrown me away, I finally understood exactly what she meant. Because this moment, this wasn't cruelty for fun, not anymore. This was strategy, not strategy to help me, strategy to break me in the most public way possible. Marisol set her cup down when she saw my hands trembling. "What happened?" She stepped closer. "They brought him," I whispered. "My ex, the one I told you about, he's sitting with them." She didn't even look surprised. That shook me more than anything. "Of course they did," she said. "I was waiting for something like this." I blinked hard. "Waiting? People like your family, they don't just want you quiet, they want you discredited." Her voice was low. "Even, they want witnesses who can say, 'See, she's always been unstable, she imagines things.'" And then she said the thing that locked everything into place. "Your family doesn't hate the old you, they depend on her." I felt my throat close. "I don't understand." "Yes, you do." She stepped closer, her voice firm. "You were easier when you were using. They were the sane ones, the heroes, the patient caretakers, the ones who sacrificed so much. They had a role. They had power." She glanced through the crack in the curtain toward them. "But when you got clean, when you started getting clarity, when you stopped playing the part they wrote for you," she looked back at me. "They lost their story." Her words hit like cold water, hard, unforgiving, true. "They're not scared of your addiction," she said. "They're scared of your clarity, because clarity means you remember things they'd rather pretend never happened. Clarity means you stop apologizing for their choices. It means you stop being the family scapegoat and start being the mirror." I felt my whole body go rigid, because the truth wasn't that my recovery made me boring, or difficult, or preachy. The truth was so much uglier, so much colder. I wasn't useful to them anymore. Not as the mess. Not as the punchline. Not as the story they told their friends to look sympathetic. I was only valuable when I made them look better by comparison. And when I stopped doing that, they tossed me aside. Not out of frustration, not out of hurt, but out of calculation. Marisol stepped in front of me, her voice steady and final. You going on that stage and telling the truth ruins their entire script. That's why they brought him. That's why he's here. They want to shake you. They want you to crumble. Because if you crumble, they get their roles back. I swallowed hard. And what if I don't crumble? Her eyes softened with something like pride. Then you take the power they stole from you, and you don't ever give it back. I exhaled slowly, the fear turning into something cold and fierce. Something I hadn't felt in years, choice. I turned toward the stage entrance. My hands were steady now, my breathing calm. If they wanted a show, I'd give them one. When they called my name, something inside me clicked into place. Not courage, not confidence, just clarity. I stepped out from behind the curtain and walked toward the podium. The room felt huge, but the front row, my front row, was bright under the stage lights. Mom sat with her hands folded like she was praying. Kyle leaned back, legs stretched out, smirking. Aunt Denise had her phone ready for photos. And Nathan looked straight at me with that familiar expression. Ready to watch me fail. I didn't pause, I didn't hesitate. I set my notes on the podium, adjusted the mic, and looked out at the room. Hi, my name is Lena, I began. And I want to tell you what 6 months clean actually looks like. I saw Mom smile proudly. I saw Denise lift her phone. I saw Kyle whisper something to Nathan, who smirked. I kept going. It looks like rebuilding your entire identity, learning how to breathe again, learning how to wake up without hating yourself. I took a breath. And sometimes, it looks like being kicked out of your house by the people you trusted most. Their smiles faltered. I held steady. It looks like sleeping in a shelter because your own family told you that you were more interesting on drugs. A ripple went through the audience. A gasp somewhere to my left. I saw all 3 of them freeze. Kyle's smirk fell clean off his face. Mom blinked like she misunderstood what she'd heard. Denise lowered her phone, but I wasn't finished, not even close. It looks like getting harassed online by a burner account created by the same family who publicly pretends to support you. I pulled out a sheet of paper, printed screenshots. Clear, verifiable. I didn't show them to the audience, but I held them in my hand, visible enough for the front row to recognize. And it looks like discovering, by accident, that the people behind that account weren't strangers. I looked straight at them, one by one. My mother, my brother, my aunt. Denise mouthed something like no, but her face was already red. Kyle leaned forward. Are you serious, right, N? I spoke over him, calm, steady. They messaged me during meetings. They commented on videos about addiction. They predicted I'd relapse. They called me fake. They mocked me together. The room went silent except for someone in the back whispering, Jesus Christ. I took a breath. And 2 days ago, they slipped up. One of them replied from the wrong account. I held the printed screenshot up for a moment. People gasped again. I turned a little to face the crowd more directly. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you this because so many of us in recovery don't just battle substances. We battle people who benefit from us being broken. My voice stayed level, steady, hard. People who liked us better when we were easier to manipulate, quieter, easier to blame. I glanced at Nathan. And some of us even battle ex-partners who only show up when there's an audience. He dropped his gaze instantly. I continued. But sobriety gave me something I didn't have before, the ability to see clearly. And today, I want to say this publicly where my family can hear it. I leaned forward slightly, gripping the podium. I forgive myself for believing their version of me, but I don't forgive them, and I don't owe them a place in the life I'm building. A woman in the second row started clapping, then another. Then 10 more, then the whole room. I stepped back from the mic, heart pounding but steady. As I walked off stage, I passed my family. None of them looked at me. Mom's face was ashen. Kyle looked furious. Denise looked like she might cry. Nathan wouldn't lift his head. Marisol met me behind the curtain. You did it, she said quietly. No, I told her. I finally told the truth. Later that night, after the event ended, I got an email from a director of a local recovery nonprofit. They wanted me to share my story again at a larger conference. Paid. And that front row, those 3 empty seats, I'll never reserve them again. Turns out I wasn't more interesting on drugs, I was just easier to control. And those days are over.